Hello, I'm Adrian, and here's the second part of my in-depth look at Miserlou by Dick Dale. If you saw part one, you will have learned about the Miserlou double harmonic scale, and you will have learned that main riff on the low E and the high E strings. In this part, we're going to be looking at the trumpet solo, which I've made work on guitar. It's actually quite fun to try and play this on the guitar, I think, and we're going to look at the other proper guitar parts as well. I also want to discuss surf gear and give you some surf tone tips, so let's get right on with it. Let's check out this trumpet solo then. Maybe I should have actually got a real trumpet player in to accompany me at the start of this video, but I don't actually know many trumpet players, so I had to make this work on the guitar, and it actually seems to fall really nicely on the guitar, and it's quite fun to play. So this is how I decided to do it. We're kicking off with this phrase. So I'm starting at the 9th fret on the G string with this E note, and I've got 9, 8, 9 on the G, and then I'm over onto the B string, starting on F, and I'm just chromatically going up to the A. So it's just a little pickup phrase leading us into the solo. The rhythm that we've got here is 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So we're hitting this A note here, and then we're continuing like this. You've got A, G sharp, A, up to B, then A, B, C, B, C, over onto the high E string. We've got this D sharp, and then we're hitting this high E. So like with the guitar melody, this is all taken from that double harmonic scale. And we're continuing with this nice series of notes all played on the high E string. So it really kind of flows nicely, sounds a little bit trumpet-like in the phrasing, I think. So starting off with F, F, E, F, and then I've got this move. So I'm starting on the E, and then I'm hammering on, and then pulling off twice to get to this D. I'm doing that again, and then an E, and then I'm playing D, hammering onto E, pulling off, and then sliding down to C, all with one stroke of the pick. So I'm picking here, hammer, pull, and slide. And I'm playing a B, and then this is a very similar idea, but we're lower down the scale. We've got D, C, D, and then a hammer on from C to D, pull off, slide down to B. Incidentally, in this part of the melody, we're actually departing from that double harmonic scale because we're playing some D naturals rather than the D sharp that we get in that scale. So this part of the melody can really be seen as using the Phrygian dominant scale, I think. And then we're wrapping up the trumpet solo like this. So you've got B over to a G sharp, those two notes again, and then F to E. And then we're just playing the opening phrase one more time. So let me play the entire trumpet solo for you slowly and in time. You've got 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So back to the guitar, and we've got another section here, not quite sure what to call this, but it's a kind of bridge or a B section, and we're returning to the low E string. This is another melody played along the length of the low E string using that same scale. This time we're starting from the 5th fret, this A note here, and like with the main melody, I'm really thinking in terms of the melody, and then I'm adding in the tremolo picking. So think about the notes of the melody, the rhythm of the melody, and then the tremolo picking kind of takes care of itself. You just need to twitch your hand up and down in those 16th note tremolo picking kind of way. But the melody is this. We've got the A note here, and then kind of dropping to G sharp, and then climbing up the scale to B. Then we're going back one note, and then climbing to C, and then back one, climbing to the D sharp, C, D sharp, E. So it's a kind of melodic pattern or sequence that we've got going on here. And if I throw in that tremolo picking, it will sound something like this. Ending up on this high E note here at the 12th fret. Got 2 bars worth of that with that same accent pattern. I'm sort of playing accents throughout this in the same pattern that I used on the main melody that I spoke about in the first video. So I'm mainly trying to accent the first beat and then the upbeat of 2. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 2 and 3 and 4. And you don't need to overthink this, you don't need to be overly precise, just try and bring out that melody, and the tremolo picking, as I say, can kind of take care of itself. And the melody continues like this. We're up at the 13th fret with this F note, and just leaving out the tremolo picking and breaking it down to the melody, it sounds like this. So we've got F, E, F, E, D. Then we've got this little flutter between the E and the D, down to C and B. If I add in the tremolo picking, then we're just hanging on this B for 2 bars, and then the melody continues like this. We're back to the D. It's D, C, D, C, B. Then we're coming right down the scale. B, G sharp, B, back to the G sharp, F, and we hit the low E again. And with the tremolo picking we have Let me put all of that section together slowly and in time. 2, 3, 4. So we're nearly there. The guitar then lays out for 3 or 4 bars, and then we return to the main melody played on the high E string. So that's played exactly the same as before. The etc. played exactly like before. And then all we have left, just in the fade out to the tune, Dick Dale is just jamming around on an open E chord, and he's throwing in a few different variations, but the basic pattern seems to be something like this. So we got the low E string, then we're hitting the higher notes in an E chord, low E twice more, and then the high notes again. So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1. That's the basic idea, but feel free to vary that a little bit if you want to. So let's talk surf tones, surf gear then. And the first thing I want to say is that I can't reproduce Dick Dale's sound exactly. I think Dick Dale's tone is a remarkable thing, and it's very, very hard to emulate. And I think there are several reasons for that. I mean, firstly, he used a very specific set of equipment, which I haven't got access to personally. But more importantly, I think the tone came from his fingers and just from the way he physically played and attacked the guitar, and it's impossible for me to reproduce that kind of feel exactly. But I do think I've come up with quite a respectable surf guitar sound. It might not be exactly Dick Dale, but I think it's a very nice surf sound that works really well for Miserlou. So let me take you through what I'm using today. Now, the guitar is a Strat, and this is of course the guitar that Dick Dale himself used, and this particular Strat is an American original series 60s Strat. And I think with a Strat there are a few things to bear in mind. I think for Miserlou and for a lot of surf stuff, you usually want to be on the bridge pickup where you're going to get the brightest, twangiest tones. So that's what I'm using today. I've got the volume tone controls on full. I think the Miserlou tone is very, very bright, almost bright to the point of harshness. So I think you want to whack up the tone, bridge pickup. And also what will help you with achieving that bright twangy tone is the way you pick, and I was trying to pick reasonably close to the bridge of the guitar, also trying to play quite hard. I mean, Dick Dale is notorious for really attacking the guitar and playing hard and loud, and I don't know if I play quite as hard and as loud as Dick Dale, but I'm certainly trying to dig in a little bit to get that extra twang. And also one of the curious things about Dick Dale's technique that maybe enabled him to get that bit of extra twang was the fact that he was a left-handed guitar player, and I suppose originally he must have just taken a right-handed guitar and sort of flipped it this way up, meaning that the strings were the opposite way round. So you've obviously got the bass strings down towards the floor and the treble strings higher up. But then what he did is he actually started using a left-handed body-shaped guitar, but he still had the strings reversed. And what that means is if you're on a Strat, you've got this slanted angle on the bridge pickup, and if the strings are the opposite way round to normal, it just means that the bass strings are down here and you've got that angle on the pickup, meaning you've got extra treble on the bass strings as opposed to the treble strings, which is the way it usually works on a Strat. So that's one of the small factors that might play a part in that brightness you hear and that twanginess you hear on those bass runs in Miserlou. Another big element of the Dick Dale tone is the fact that he was using really heavy strings. He's rumoured to use ridiculously heavy strings, so I'm not doing that today. I'm just using my usual kind of medium gauge Ernie Ball 10s, but I think if you did want to go heavier on the strings, then again that might add a bit of extra twang and a bit of extra heaviness to the sound. So that's the guitar. Next up we've got reverb, and reverb I think is the key effect if you want those surf guitar sounds. It's all about the reverb and having that wet splashy sound, and I think Dick Dale has said that he was attempting to recreate the sound of the ocean, and that's why you have to pile on the reverb if you want those surf tones. So Dick Dale himself, he would have used an outboard Fender reverb tank. I'm using a kind of modern equivalent of that today. I've got my Surfy Bear reverb unit, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the best currently available version of that classic Fender reverb sound. It's a genuine spring reverb tank. It sounds fantastic, I think, for this kind of music, and you just have to be a little bit careful with the way you dial it in. Obviously you think surf and you want to pile on the reverb, but then you don't want to overdo it. I think if you have too much reverb, then the guitar tends to lose its definition and to lose its attack. So I just played around on this unit with the mixer and the dwell controls, just so I could get it sitting right with the guitar and the balance between the wet and the dry sounds. Also, there's a tone control on this reverb unit, and I cranked that up quite high as well. I think if you listen to Miserlou, it's a very bright sound. It's bright almost to the point of harshness, and it's certainly brighter than I would normally go on my guitar sounds. But to try and reproduce the Miserlou sound, I kind of went quite high on the tone control here. So the reverb is actually the only effect I'm using today. From the reverb unit, I'm going straight into my amp, which today is a Fender Deluxe reverb. Now, Dale himself, he did use Fender amps, but he used massively powerful Fender dual Showman amps. I think they were amongst the first 100-watt amps, and he was known for playing really, really loud. So I'm not able to play that loud in here today. I've got my Fender Deluxe on about 3 or 4 today, which is moderately loud, but compared with Dick Dale standards, it's nothing. And there's, it's not for nothing that Dick Dale was known as one of the forefathers of rock and heavy metal. He liked really kind of blistering volume. He really liked to attack the guitar. So again, I can't really reproduce that in here today, but if you do want to really go for some of those Dick Dale tones, you might want to try and crank up a valve amp and get some of that nice kind of power amp saturation and overdrive. So that brings this 2-part look at Miserlou to an end. Hope you've enjoyed these 2 videos, and I hope you enjoy learning to play Miserlou. Remember, the full music and tab will be up on my Patreon page, as well as my backing track, which you'll be able to download and play along to should you wish. Thanks very much for watching. I shall see you for another video very soon. Bye bye.